case presentation. We're going to thank our judges here today, Raman Kapil from CPA, Barbara Scheffner from MCO, Ken Seacon from Camosun College, Leslie Brown, she's the Vice President of Connect Hearing Canada, Ian Taylor from Island Business Solution, and Katie McKilligan from Xerox. The competitors will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, we'll have a total of 5 minutes to ask the presenters questions. The volunteer timekeeper will show time cards at various intervals to indicate the remaining time and will stop any speaker who exceeds the maximum time limit. No questions, comments, cell phones, or picture taking will be permitted at any time. The audience will only be permitted to applaud following the question and answer period. The audience is banned from any material that bears a name or symbol of the competing university. We ask the audience to exit the room immediately following the question and answer period. Competitors, you're ready to go whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Okay, good morning. Andrew Hall and Jeremy Bryant, co-founders of Mealshare. Thank you for bringing your wonderful board, and thank you for joining us for this very early meeting. My name is Allison. These are my colleagues, John and Greg. We're with Avenue Consulting. We're here today to save you. Okay. 5,000 hours. So what does that mean? You guys have done an incredible job of starting a very interesting social entrepreneurship company. And you're providing meals to the less fortunate in Africa by matching meals by restaurant sales at restaurants. And that's an incredible vision, and you guys are clearly very competent salespeople because you've managed to win over a number of restaurants and to share your vision. You have 75 restaurants currently, and you plan to ambitiously grow to over 1,000 restaurants, which is quite a bit of growth, and quite a bit of new hiring and being able to bring new members onto your team that share your vision. So you have these fantastic sales skills and your incredible vision, and you're bringing on people that are going to be like-minded individuals and be able to share that goal with you. So how come you're wasting your time dragging and dropping data and copying Excel spreadsheets, running Excel calculations and manually sending out bills? It's a lot of time. At the moment, it's taking you almost 22 hours per week. And eventually, when you have this ambitious growth to 1,000 restaurant partners, so it's going to be costing you 5,000 hours of employee time. And that's a lot for a non-for-profit company like yourself, or a social entrepreneurship company like yourself. So we're here today to show you how you can best capitalize on your system management, and how you can be able to better manage your customers and your clients and be able to streamline processes, and all the while doing it for under budget. So with that, we're going to go through a few of the issues that we've analyzed for your company. We're going to roll out a solution for you that we think is really going to be a great foundation for your company and be able to provide a platform to spring off of for future innovation, and then allow you to just continue doing the social good that you've demonstrated that you're so great at. So with that, I'll pass it on to my colleague John.
Thank you very much. So as Allison pointed out, you guys are doing an amazing thing right now. You're helping the lives of hundreds of thousands currently. And as you said, we're hoping to save you those 5,000 hours en route to helping millions every year. What's holding you back currently though? First of all, you're looking at processes. The processes that you've developed in order to make your connections, have the money transferred between restaurants and your balance sheet, and then managing that information along the way is being done in a way that is not sustainable. It's costing you a lot of your time and costing your employees a lot of heartache as well as the restaurants. Then there's your missing systems to support the fundamental operations of your business. So, as we said, there's a few processes that require a lot of information to be traveled from point A, whether it's your restaurants, to point B, maybe it's your Excel spreadsheet. What's happening right now is that information is being transferred and passed in a way that isn't sustainable. There's a lot of information being passed, and if you're looking to get to 2 million plus individuals that you're going to help a year, you're going to have to reinvent your system to support all that information. And finally, you're looking at the conflicting priorities of the individual key stakeholders of your business. That will include restaurants, that will include your employees, that will include the delivery, charity services that you are employing. What does this mean for you guys, however? Currently, the processes lack of underlying systems are unsupportive for your future growth in a sustainable way. But we're here to change that. We're here to help you save all those hours and help the lives of millions in the future. So I'm going to break down your unsustainable processes a little bit further. First of all, manual processing. It's something that has to be done one way or another, but to what extent? What's happening currently is yourselves as the founders are taking on a lot of the workload and taking the information from restaurants, putting it into your systems. It's unsustainable, and what's happening is it's, as you saw when you were going to your interview, that you didn't have enough time in a day. It took up your entire Monday to transfer the information from point A to point B. You're fragmenting sales info. That is with regards to the different platforms that you're using to keep hold of the information for your restaurants, for your clients, and for the individual stakeholders. So you're using things like Notepad, Excel, they have their own databases on the other end, and this information is being kept in so many different places, but we're hoping to keep that in a centralized manner. Finally, highly redundant data comes from that exact same issue of having so many different platforms holding the exact same information. So second is the missing supportive systems. So lack of a remote server. This is the idea of having your information stored somewhere else that is not your PC. It's a simple concept, but can make such a huge difference in your business. There's been very many issues that can come up. If your laptop were to fall in the river, if your laptop were to get crushed going through the X-ray machine in the airport, something may happen and you're going to lose all your information, and we don't want that. You lack real-time updates. So when you're getting the information about how much revenue you're generating, so you can help so many lives, it's not real time. And that issue comes into play in that forecasting for yourselves is difficult. You're not able to expand your horizon, expand or contract the amount of people that you're going to be benefiting in the future because you don't have the proper information. And finally, the lack of consolidated data. We're going back to the issue of having so many platforms and this information is not being held by yourselves. Finally, we're going to look at the conflicting priorities of your key stakeholders. This is a very interesting topic because it deals with people. When you're dealing with people, you have emotions, you have actions that cannot be controlled, and you have a lot of different motives behind those actions. So let's take a restaurant, for example. All your revenues are generated from the restaurant. Most of your revenues are generated from the restaurant industry. What that means is a restaurant has to make a profit. And given circumstances, whether it be economic, whether it be personal, maybe people aren't going to want to eat out at the restaurants. So maybe their bottom lines are going to be affected, and maybe they're going to have to draw back on certain promotions as such, like eating away from the profits to benefit not-for-profits. Those are the different priorities that your key stakeholders will hold and can affect your business. The unsustainable salary is your second key piece. That's internal. So what this means is you're generating money, but not enough money to be able to withstand and hold such a beneficial company in the long run. You're not making enough money to feed yourselves, to live, let alone to hire new employees to live for themselves. Finally, we're going to get the restaurant labor usage. What that means is the other side of the coin with regards to restaurants having to implement and pursue the data that they have to put into your system, send you all the information, and that all takes time. Who's doing that is people on the other side that you don't control, but they're doing it out of their own free will and they want to help other people. Again, we get back to the issue. Maybe they run out of time in a day. They're going to cut off something that is going to ultimately, at the end of the day, cost them money. So where does that leave us? Currently, you guys have phenomenal vision. You're looking to affect the lives of millions in the future, both locally and internationally in Africa. But the infrastructure isn't quite there. So, with an enhanced technology infrastructure and your exceptional outlook, you're looking to affect 2.5 million lives per year as of 2017. Your expansion is great, it's vast, it's ambitious, it's admirable, and we hope to take you there. Pass off to Allison.
Fantastic. Okay, so the first thing that we wanted to talk about was the number of CRMs that you're currently investigating. This is a solution that you've indicated that would be a great way to help you capture more information about your clients, and we agree. Absolutely, this is necessary for your company. You do need a consolidated source of information to be able to pull your customer information from, because otherwise it's being lost in personal cell phones, it's being lost in your personal PC, and you aren't being able to have a continuous relationship with these clients. And it's so key to your mission and your vision of building partnerships. So we've taken a look at the number of CRMs that you're currently considering, and we're going to just talk to a few of them, because a few of them we'd like to write off right away. Definitely Sales Tracker is, although it's one of the cheaper options, there's just clearly a lack of capabilities and it won't support you in the future. Sage Act has a one-time fee of $1,800, which is very unusual for software, and to not have a yearly licensing fee. So that leads us to believe that there's going to be a lot of issues with sustainment and being able to bring on more employees and being able to have them kind of scale with your growth. And of course, they're also integrating only with their own software. So that leaves a lot of problems to you if you're using an AIS system or any other system going forward. You'll have to consider that. So we're going to take a look at 3 key CRMs that we think would really suit your business. Primarily being Salesforce. So this is one that you've taken a look at, 30-day trial, and you were kind of iffy, not interested. And we want to bring back to, so this is probably the industry leader right now. This is a name that everybody knows. They're actively innovating, they're currently developing, and they have a lot of potential. Unfortunately, they're of course the most expensive option because they are the industry leader and they're probably the most recognized name out there. So while you're under 5 users of the software, it's relatively cheap and very comparable to other options, but unfortunately as soon as you go above 5 users, the price really jumps. So we're looking at about $80 per any more than 5 users, which would be about $4,800 as a base per year. So that's quite a bit for a nonprofit like yourself. So secondly would be Sugar CRM. This has a lot of key capabilities. It's a very reasonable price, so that's something that is a key consideration for you. It has high function social media and lots of customers. There's about 1,000 that have had really great success stories and are willing to speak on behalf of their experience with the company. Finally is Maximizer CRM, one of the kind of mid-range prices, and it has quite a number of functions that really suit your business. And it's full features, so you can access it remotely, which is true of all of these cloud-based CRMs. So when we're taking a look at this, absolutely there are some that would definitely fit your needs, but we're definitely going to narrow it down to Salesforce because there's really a lot of potential with a company that has such innovation, and it has its current developer platform. It has Salesforce One, which is available on mobile. It has a lot of ecosystem around it of company partners that are consulting firms specifically tailored to Salesforce. And these are all relationships that you can leverage. And then we're going to also look at the Sugar CRM because it has a lot of the key functions that you'd be looking at as well. And before we continue, I just wanted to address that you do have almost zero budget. It's like a negative budget for this project, and it's challenging for a social enterprise like yourself to be able to afford systems like this because they are a high investment right away. You've indicated that you'd really like some customization for your unique company, but we need to indicate how you're going to be able to afford it because at the moment your accountant is working for free and your employees are making a baseline salary of $10,000. So we're going to consider that as we go. So for the alternatives that we're going through, so like I said, you have a very small budget, so we're definitely going to have to consider that in the solution that we suggest. Secondly would be, it needs to be scalable. So like we said, you're projecting 1,200% growth in the next 7 years, which is very intense and puts you in an interesting position of having software that needs to be able to come in at the baseline and really ramp up to suit your needs. Finally, as John mentioned, you have a number of stakeholders, so your restaurant users will also have to be interacting with the software, including your own users, including possibly your charities, so it needs to be adaptable. But we have to consider that it's volunteer work for these employees to be putting the data in, and of course, some of them may not have system expertise. Okay, so with that, so here's the recommendations that we'd like to pitch to you. So first would be implement Salesforce due to its extensive capabilities and its widespread reputation. We have the Sugar CRM, which is cheaper and a little bit lesser known. We also have an idea for you to leverage your existing Microsoft Office licenses and be able to use Access as a cheaper kind of free solution and be able to integrate it with your website, which would be an additional cost. but would be able to query from your website out of your database and have possibly online forms linked onto your website that your client or your relationship or your restaurant partners would be able to enter their information into and have it submit directly into your database, which would really minimize the number of steps it takes. And then finally would be POS, the point of sale integration with the restaurant. So this would be building an application that sits right on the point of sale machine for servers at the restaurant. As soon as they ring in the meal, it can show up. Say on your website on a live stream that it was Earl's now has sold one meal today, and that can be a counter that keeps going. So that's very interesting because it would be an immediate input into your systems, and you have the possibility of having like that live stream capability, added visualization for customers who are choosing to go to different restaurants, and that could be really interesting for your restaurant partners to be able to have that awareness. So with that, we've done an analysis of the different recommendations. You can take a look here. We have a number of different pros and cons to each, of course. I'm going through them quickly. Of course, Salesforce is the most expensive, so if we were to implement that, we need to really mitigate that cost. Secondly, it would be scalable, so that's something that can definitely accommodate your... Just going to go ahead and continue with the implementation. But we'd like to talk about Salesforce. So your opportunity is implementing a highly capable CRM system that's able to automate your business processes, and by doing so, reduce headcount. So this is where the cost savings come in, and this is how we can afford this for your company. Would be reduce the required headcount because they don't need to be entering data, and be able to have significant cost savings that you can use to invest. So a number of benefits. So the time spent entering your data now can be automated, and that is allowing you to focus on your core competencies as a company. The fragmented customer data is now consolidated in one condensed source, which would be your online web-hosted database. So it can be accessed anywhere, and you can create customer profiles whenever you require them. As well as the data located on a personal laptop is no longer an issue because it's hosted online. And the security onus is set on Salesforce, and they have a really comprehensive security profile, and that lets you have some ease of mind without worrying about your data being hacked into. It's low budget, so this is your key issue of having a low budget. So we believe that you can reduce your headcount realistically by 20%, which I'll have Greg go into in a moment, and that allows you to have cost savings within your company that frees capital to invest in your systems. All right.
Perfect. An industry-leading CRM being implemented in the startup. Many consultants would pitch this, but we are for two primary reasons. The first is, from the material we reviewed about your company, your ambitions is not to remain a startup for long. You want to become an international, not-for-profit, recognizable company, and getting in with an industry-leading CRM really will benefit you much more down the line. And secondly, the benefits will outweigh the costs dramatically, and we'll go over that quite shortly. So we've identified a two-phase implementation step to really reduce and make it the stress and make it easy for you founders who are busy with everyday operations of the business to implement this CRM. The first is partnering with a specialized consulting firm. Because Salesforce is a leading industry CRM, it has built this ecosystem in which there are consulting firms primarily just for Salesforce. And then going into phase two is the meat of the implementation, and that's actual implementing the CRM. And we know that this can be done within a 10-month range, giving 3 months or 2.5 months for the partnering with the consulting firm, and an additional 7 months for implementing the CRM, which is a faster implementation, but because you're a startup, there's less requirements and less overhead involved with the implementation, creating a quicker and shorter implementation. So getting into the actual CRM implementation, we've identified 5 stage gates that will get you fully implemented within Salesforce in 7 months. We'd really like to emphasize stage 1 and 3 requirements. Getting all the detail up right front will really benefit you down the line, both in the implementation and further reducing the customization required with your business processes. And thirdly, build. Because you do have a few customizable aspects to your business processes, reaching out to your restaurant partners, it will take about 2.5 months as well to customize it to your needs. Look at the last, because you're a startup, the benefit is that you can test and train at the same time, reducing a lot of the implementation frame. And then finally, sustainment. can be outsourced. It's not a core competency for your business, and there's many consulting firms that can easily do that. Looking into one of the RISE objects, a workflow. Now, you've identified a very timely process of currently billing your restaurant owners. So we've created a new process that totally reinvents your current one. And we'd like to highlight 2 boxes. The first, which is yellow, which is an external action, and the last is the blue, which is a manual action. So you can see what has previously been a fully manual process has now been reduced and automated into a one-step process. This is what is reducing you so much time. As Allison was talking about, being a startup, you don't have a lot of funds to build the system or to implement the system. But by reducing the time needed for just that one process, you're going to be saving about 20% of your workforce, which amounts to $75,000 in 2019 in total. Costs include the consultancy fees and the implementation, which we ballpark around $49K.
All right, I'll have to stop you there, sorry.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much. We'd like to open up to a discussion about our solution.
Judges, you have 5 minutes to ask these guys some questions.
You talk about reduction of headcount to pay for the solution, but really the billing is all being done by the co-founders. So we don't want to really reduce the headcount of the co-founders. So what actual headcount are you thinking will be impacted?
Great question. So as you projected your growth into 2019, you are projecting about 16 employees. So that's a big jump from the 5 that you currently have. But we do think that you can reduce 20% off of that, which would be 3, because a lot of the processing is required to be done by some of your employees, and by knocking out those 3, that's where the cost savings really exist. So kind of 20% incrementally as you go up to 2019.
But the cost of the solution is today, and so the cost savings wouldn't be happening till...
So there is the first time cost of $49,000, and there's also yearly licensing fees, which would be very much reduced by the saved headcount. But yes, there is an initial upfront cost, which you could definitely be able to associate with the savings down the line, but definitely something that you have to consider with the system at first.
So you mentioned 9 months for implementation of this, and we need $49,000 to invest from a minus budget. So for 9 months, we continue doing business the way we are doing business, plus we borrow $49,000 from somewhere, and then end of the day, what's my ROI? When do I start saving money?
So with the financing needs that you're requiring, so it's $49,000, that's going to be taking place. Your 9-month implementation is going to happen post fundraising. So your fundraising will occur from either increasing leverage, going to the bank, going to friends, going to colleagues of the store, reaching out to your restaurants. So once that fund is raised, that's the question of your question of the ROI then comes into play. So the 20% is what we're really looking at as our key indicator of returns, because as you are not for profit, you're not going to be really generating return on your investment, because that in natural terms wouldn't be all that proper. But what this will do is help you be net zero in the end of the day with a 20% saving cost. So in the end of the day, your net zero is going to be at a lower cost and revenues will be associated. If that makes sense.
But you didn't convince me. So if I am an old-fashioned accountant, instead of paying $49,000, I can hire a bookkeeper for $32,000 and get everything done, and I don't have to do anything.
But see, the thing is, your $32,000 is perpetual. So if you want a bookkeeper, you're going to have a bookkeeper for every year at $32,000 for the rest of your career.
But the
And then-
CRM costs money every year too, so there is a continual
It does, but
perpetual
see, the
cost
thing
of
is,
CRM.
your marginal amount of increase, so say you want to make your $2.5 million people affected by your project. So what happens is when you try to get to 5 million people, 10 million people, you're going to have to increase the amount of accountants that you require. And at $32,000, you're going to need probably 5, 10 by the end of the day. This is a one-time cost that is allowing you to be able to connect so globally and so widespread with such a small cost in the end of the day, but at such a high capability.
And one thing I do want to mention is being on board for other companies, the $350 a day is really $350, could be an hour. Salesforce.com consultants are pretty expensive, and they're usually range anywhere from $200 to $350 an hour.
You talked a little bit about modularity of the solution at the beginning. So are we looking at a full encompass solution right off the hop here, or are we able to look at something that we can grow into? So have you guys looked at putting priorities in place or putting action plans around that and looking at different timelines for rollout of different parts of the solution?
Definitely, we have modularized it, and primarily up front, we want to focus on that relationship with the restaurant partners. So creating that billing module so that automates the process, and which is where you'll see the time savings, so that the founders don't have to spend the time. And when they're growing the company, they eventually won't be able to spend the time. And so new hires that would have to go on to take on the manual processes won't be required, which is where we'll save the headcount.
What I don't understand about that is that the point of sale systems in the restaurants are all different. No restaurant has, some of them have the same point of sale, but there's masses of different point of sales. So how have you dealt with that compatibility with the data coming into one endpoint?
Perfect, I'm glad you brought that up. So we're not suggesting implementing each POS system that the restaurants have. Instead, within your Salesforce environment, creating a module that would send out a scheduled email link that contains an e-form in which the restaurant owners, now they're currently filling it out manually on a spreadsheet and then emailing it back and forth. But now this form will fill out, it'll be a lot easier to fill out, and then would automatically update this data in Salesforce,
I'll have to
generate
stop
an
you
invoice,
there.
and send it to the customer.
It's the end of the 5-minute question period. Judges, you have 5 minutes to complete the scorecards, and then I'll collect them.
Hi judges, how did it go? Yeah, perfect. So because of the time delay, we're going to ask you to do a bit of a quicker deliberation for this one. We'll do 5 minutes, and then we'll get the next thing prepared. And at the end, remember, you can always change your scores at the end of the day. So.
Awesome. You brought the whole crew with them. That was their audience? Or?
They were good though, I think.